first of all, we're looking at our learning objectives. Now, first of all, you need to understand that light waves are what I call, just underline this if I can, transverse waves, which can be reflected, refracted and diffracted. Secondly, describe experiments to investigate refraction of light using rectangular blocks, semicircular blocks and also triangular prisms. Thirdly, know and use the relationship between refractive index, angle of incidence and angle of refraction. And lastly, describe an experiment to determine the refractive index of glass using a glass block. Now, it's an awful lot to get through there, so we're not going to try and achieve all that in this video, but I'll give you some pointers at the end as to where we can find the rest of the information. But let's progress and first of all think about refraction of light. Now, pencils in this beaker, if you can see them over here, both of them from the side appear to be bent. That one there and that one there. Okay, so the pencils in the beaker appear to be bent. This is because light is bent, actually is bent by the water. The bending effect is called refraction. Let's look what happens when we shine a ray of light through a glass block. Now here we've got a glass block. Here's a glass block and out here is air. Light is coming from this direction down here, and if we shine light at right angles, see the right angle there? Right angle to the surface, light goes straight through, there's no bending. So, it says over here, light passing through the glass block at right angles to the surface will not be refracted. The rays will pass straight through. All well and good for a ray of light going straight through, but what happens now if you actually have it at an angle? Now, if we shine the ray of light down here, here's our we call instant ray coming in here. So ray of light's been shining here and it's hitting the glass block at this point here. Okay. Now, don't forget this one here is called the normal. Okay, we've come across this before in our previous diagrams. This is called the normal line. It's an imaginary line that is actually at right angles, okay, to that surface there. So here's our ray of light coming in and it's hitting the point there. Now, this is what happens. So, as the light comes in, so it bends. You can see here the light is bending, and this bending here forms what's called the refracted ray. And we've got two angles we're interested in, the angle of incidence here and the angle of refraction here. Now both those two are very important as you progress through this. Now, when passing from a less dense medium, now air is less dense than glass. So when passing from a less dense medium air to a more dense medium glass, light bends towards the normal. This is really important. We're going from less dense out here, less particles, to glass, got more particles, and the ray of light actually bends towards the normal. Okay, it's always the case. Light bends towards normal, going from less dense to more dense. As it comes out at this point here, okay, it bends now. Imagine there's a normal line here. It bends now away from the normal. So it's going from more dense to less dense, so it bends now away from the normal. Now, if my drawing has been any good, we should see something rather interesting here, and that is if we trace this ray back all along here, we trace it back, okay, it should, if my drawing is good enough, be parallel. This line here should be parallel to this line here. Okay, so it says here the ray emerges from the glass block parallel to its original direction. You can see here it's shifted because refraction, but these two rays here, these two rays should be parallel. So if we follow this one back, draw an imaginary line backwards through here, if my drawing is any good, which I think you can admit is the case, then they are parallel. Okay, so make sure you understand incident ray, angle of incidence, refracted ray, angle of refraction, and how this ray here, we can trace it back, shows emerging ray up here is parallel to the incident ray. Okay, now I know you're asking the question, why? Okay, why is light refracted? Well, that's a very important property you need to look at here, and that is the fact that light is made up of many tiny waves. We can illustrate this by looking perhaps at some little waves. Now imagine we've got air, which is a less dense medium, and glass, a more dense medium. Now light is coming down here. Okay, these are light waves here coming in. When light beams pass from air to glass, one side is slowed. Now this side here, this side is actually hitting the interface between glass and air before this side. So what happens is that this side gets slowed before that. So in effect it pulls the light rays around, so they become refracted, they bend. So when light beams pass from air into glass, one side over here is slowed before the other over here, and that causes the light beam to bend, and that is what we mean by refraction. Now we can see refraction in other situations. Say for example you're looking at a goldfish. You've got a pond in the garden. Here's your goldfish. Your goldfish is swimming down here at the bottom of the pond. Now you don't see it at the bottom of the pond. You actually see it at a higher point in the water, what's called the apparent depth. Okay, you see apparent depth there, whereas the real depth is much more down here. Why is that? Well, look at light rays. Now watch the light rays now coming off the goldfish. Light rays off the goldfish, they hit the surface, the interface between water and air there. Because water is more dense than air, the light rays are going to refract away from the normal in this direction here, and likewise for this ray of light coming here. But if we then trace these rays backwards to a point down here, okay, this is the point at which our eye believes that the goldfish is its apparent depth. Okay, so refraction has occurred at the surface there of these two rays coming off the goldfish. You can trace those back and you get the apparent depth. So you've got an apparent depth of the goldfish and the real depth of the goldfish, and the apparent depth is given simply by the fact that light refracts at the interface between water and air. Now we have a thing called refractive index. We're not going to go into a great deal at this point. Let's just introduce you to refractive index. Now refractive index of a medium is glass or water or perspex or diamond, whatever, is defined as the speed of light in a vacuum, got it? Which is, what is it, 300,000 kilometers a second, divided by the speed of light in the medium. So the speed of light, for example, in glass. We can put that into equation. Refractive index is speed of light in vacuum divided by speed of light in a medium. So say for example the speed of light is 300,000 kilometers a second. So the speed of light in the vacuum was 200,000 kilometers a second. That'd be 300,000 divided by 200,000. Get out your fingers and toes and calculators, and that will give you a figure 1.5. Let's look at some refractive index or indices, shall we? Now, so a vacuum, lost my pointer now. Where's my pointer gone? There it is. So, lost my pointer there for a moment. So a vacuum has got a refractive index of 1. Now even air, okay, slows light down fractionally. Look at this. Look at where you are down there. That's 10 hundredths, thousands, 10,000 size, isn't it? Water slows down light even more. Glass slows down. Now the glass, think about my calculation a second ago. Glass, it could be 200,000, couldn't it? Because if you divide 300,000 by 200,000, you get 1.5. So it could be glass with a speed of 200,000. Interesting thought. And you've got diamond. Look at diamond. A much greater refractive index. This is why it sparkles, I wonder. Refractive index of 2.4. So that must slow down light even more. So perhaps diamond is more dense than glass. And perspex, very similar to glass, isn't it? Okay. So those are called refractive indices given by this equation here. But we're not going to look at it in great detail in this video. Right, let's look now at two other movements. Let's look now at the movement of light through a prism. Now over here you've got a single white light source. You put in front of your ray box a slit. You've got a single ray of white light. Okay, white light hits the prism here. Guess what? It refracts. But it refracts in a rather interesting way. What happens is it splits up into all the colours of the spectrum: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Now, do you remember this? You may have come across this before. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Do you remember how to remember this? Do you remember how to remember? Can you do that? Richard of York gave battle in vain. Little mnemonic there to help you remember all of the colours of the rainbow. Now, my point here is that this effect is called dispersion. So in effect, light is dispersing or splitting up. So if you disperse, you split up, don't you? If you disperse a crowd, the crowd splits up. If you disperse white light, it breaks up into its different colours. My diagram here is a bit rubbish, so over here we've got a better one. Now up in this diagram here you can see red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and see how it starts to split up at this point. As soon as light refracts in the prism, it starts to disperse. Okay. Now this is an artistic impression of what happens. You never get this perfect. What's interesting here, look, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Now, many people have questioned the existence of this colour here, indigo. It's difficult to actually pick it out. This one exaggerates it a little bit, but indigo is a strange colour that makes it the seventh colour of the spectrum. But there we go. Now, all this happens because white is a mixture of all the colours in the rainbow. You mix all these together, guess what? You get white. Now second, or is it third? Yeah, third. Third thing to look at is the ray of light passing through a semicircular glass block. So down here, this is called a semicircular glass block. Now, when a ray of light travels through a semicircular block, the ray will be refracted. Obviously, okay, it comes up here. It's going, don't forget, from here. This is a more dense medium. This is perspex or glass. Gets this point, going to a less dense medium, which is air. And you now remember, going from more dense to less dense, it bends away from the normal. So it'll bend away from the normal there. There's our refracted ray, as we'd expect. But also what's interesting here is you get a reflected ray. Here's a reflected ray. Do you remember the relationship between the instant angle there and the reflected angle there? They should be the same. So those two angles there, I and R, should be the same. So going through our glass block, we get, as we'd expect, refraction. There's our refracted ray there. But also we get some reflection. Now, what happens if we increase this angle of incidence here? So let's move this ray around here a bit. There we go, to there. Now look what happens. Again, we get reflection, and I is going to be here, and R is going to be there. They're the same. But look what's happened to refracted ray. Refracted ray at a certain instant ray angle, at a certain angle here, okay, the refracted ray will actually travel along the line of the glass block. So as the instant angle approaches what we call the critical angle, it's about 42 degrees. So down here it's about 42 degrees is the critical angle, and that's the angle. To get that on there, the refracted ray travels at right angles, right angle there, complete it, to normal. There's our refracted ray, reflected instant. There is now more internal reflection. This becomes more obvious. What then happens if we increase instant ray even more? Well, look at this. Instant ray coming in, this is greater, this angle here, okay, is greater than 42 degrees. And what happens is we get no refraction at all. We only get reflection. So if the instant ray now enters the block at an angle greater than the critical angle, no light is refracted. There's no more refraction, only reflection. This is a very interesting property. All light is now reflected at the boundary. This is now known as total internal reflection, and that's a really important property we're looking at in a subsequent video. Let's just stop there and have a think about our learning objectives. What have we completed? The first one said, understand light waves are transverse waves which can be reflected. We've done that in the previous video. Refracted, yeah, we've done that there. And the other one here, diffracted. Now, I haven't got time to look at diffraction, so what I'll do another video telling more about diffraction. Second one, investigate experiments to show the refraction of light using rectangular blocks. We did that there. Semicircular blocks and triangular prisms. I think we've done those, haven't we? Yep. There's our prism, and down below there's our semicircle now. So we've now done that one. That one there, up there, has been done completely. Big tick there. We've done it completely, haven't we? That one's a half tick. We haven't quite finished it. Okay, so half tick there. What is this one? know and use the relationship between refractive index, angle of incidence, angle of refraction. We've touched on that. We looked at total internal reflection. So again, I'll be putting together another video looking at total internal reflection. So again, we've halved on that, haven't we? And the last one described an experiment to determine the refractive index of glass. Now we mentioned refractive index, didn't we? Very briefly, looked at some figures here, but I didn't tell you how we can actually determine them. So again, I'll put together another video looking at refraction calculations. Okay, right, there we are. So this is the end of the video. I hope you've taken on board everything I said. If not, please, as always, go back and go through the video again, use your notes as resources, please. But I look forward to seeing you again. So thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and bye-bye for now.